Welcome back to the Crime Decoder, where we dig into the shadows of real-life mysteries to uncover the truth. Tonight we're unraveling the haunting case of Taylor Pomaski, a 29-year-old woman from Spring, Texas, whose sudden disappearance on April 25, 2021, shattered her family and sparked one of Harris County's most meticulous homicide investigations. What began as a quiet gathering at her suburban home spiraled into a chilling puzzle involving a former NFL player, a volatile relationship, and a trail of subtle warning signs that went unnoticed until it was far too late. This is a story of silence, missed opportunities, and a relentless pursuit of justice. Grab a seat because we're diving deep into every facet of this tragedy. Every clue, every heartbreak, every lesson. Let's decode the case of Taylor Pomaski, step by step. Spring, Texas, just north of Houston, is a sprawling suburban landscape of modest brick homes, neatly trimmed lawns, and quiet streets that hum with routine. Stallion Brook Lane, where Taylor Pomaski lived, was no exception, a place where neighbors waved politely but kept their distance. On the evening of April 25, 2021, Taylor's home hosted a small gathering. Picture a cozy living room, soft music playing from a Bluetooth speaker, glasses clinking with drinks, and a handful of friends sharing stories under the glow of warm lights. It was meant to be a relaxed Sunday night, nothing out of the ordinary. But beneath the surface, an undercurrent of tension simmered. Taylor, a vibrant 29-year-old known for her punctuality, warm smile, and close-knit family ties, had been dating Kevin Ware Jr., a former NFL tight end, for several months. To neighbors, the couple was private, rarely seen beyond their fenced backyard or driveway. But those closest to Taylor sensed a change. Her usual spark had dimmed, replaced by a quiet unease that crept into her conversations. Friends noticed her canceling plans, her texts growing brief and vague. "It's been intense lately," she'd say, brushing off their concerns with a forced laugh. "I'm just figuring things out." That night, the gathering took a dark turn. Witnesses recalled moments of laughter, interrupted by sharp bursts of shouting. A heated argument between Taylor and Kevin erupted, loud enough to cut through the music and unsettle guests. One friend described Taylor's face flushed, eyes wide with distress, pacing near the front door as if desperate to leave but rooted in place. Another overheard a door slam, followed by muffled voices, with one guest later reporting to police that Taylor had been locked in a room for a short time, her voice trembling through the walls. A third attendee recalled Taylor's hands shaking as she poured a drink, her usual warmth replaced by a nervous edge. By midnight, the party had fizzled out. Most guests left, some uneasy but unsure what to do. No one saw Taylor leave the house. No one called for help. The next morning, the house was silent. Taylor's car sat untouched in the driveway. Inside, her purse, phone, and beloved dog, a constant companion she'd never abandoned, remained in place. Her daily texts to friends stopped. Her routine calls to her mother, a sacred ritual, went silent. In an era where digital footprints track our every move, Taylor Pomaski had vanished without a trace, leaving behind a void that would haunt her loved ones. Taylor's parents, living out of state, relied on her regular check-ins to stay connected. She was diligent daily, texts, weekly calls, always a message on special occasions. But as April turned to May, their messages went unanswered. Her phone, usually buzzing with updates, was silent. On May 9, 2021, Mother's Day, the absence was unbearable. No call, no text, no social media post for her mom, a tradition Taylor never missed. After 10 days of radio silence, her parents' worry turned to dread. They contacted the Harris County Sheriff's Office, their voices trembling as they requested a welfare check at Taylor's home on Stallion Brook Lane. 2 patrol officers arrived at the residence around noon. The house was locked, the blinds drawn, Taylor's car still parked in the driveway. Kevin Ware Jr., the homeowner, answered the door. He told police Taylor had left on foot several days earlier, but his answers were frustratingly vague. What was she wearing? He didn't know. Where was she headed? No idea. When exactly did she leave? He couldn't say. The officers conducted a cursory walkthrough, finding no signs of a struggle, no blood, no broken furniture, no forced entry. The visit was logged as a non-criminal welfare check, and they left. It wasn't until May 14th, 5 days later, that Taylor's name was entered into the National Missing Persons Database. That delay, while not illegal, would prove a critical blow. By then, time-sensitive evidence surveillance footage from nearby homes, businesses, and traffic cameras had been overwritten, leaving investigators with a narrowing window to find answers. As detectives dug into Taylor's life, a troubling pattern emerged. Her digital footprint had vanished after April 25th. No bank transactions, no cell phone pings, no social media logins, no email activity, nothing. In 2021, when smartphones track our every step, this kind of silence was a glaring anomaly, almost impossible to achieve by accident. Friends and family shared stories of Taylor's gradual withdrawal in the 6 weeks before her disappearance. She'd canceled lunch plans without explanation, her once lively texts growing short and detached. "Things are heavy right now," she wrote to one friend. "I'm just trying to sort it out," she told another, her tone clipped and non-committal. On March 28th, 4 weeks before she vanished, Taylor made a late-night call to a close friend. It was just before 1 a.m., and she spoke in a hushed, almost frantic whisper, as if afraid of being overheard. "If something happens to me, don't forget this," she said, her voice trembling. The call lasted less than 5 minutes, and she hung up without elaborating. The friend, shaken but unsure what to do, didn't report it at the time, assuming Taylor was just stressed. Looking back, it was a cry for help that went unanswered. Investigators uncovered a chilling clue in Taylor's Gmail account. A draft email titled, "In Case You Need to Know." It was never sent, never deleted, just lingering in her drafts folder, like a ghost in the machine. The message contained 2 haunting lines. "I didn't fall off the radar. They pushed me." Digital forensic analysts scoured the account, but couldn't recover earlier versions or confirm if it was meant for a specific recipient. Those words, stark and unfinished, carried the weight of unspoken fear. As if Taylor was trying to leave a message for someone to find. Police records revealed another critical moment. On April 7, 2021, the Harris County Sheriff's Office responded to a 911 call about a domestic dispute at Taylor's address. Officers found Taylor and Kevin in a heated verbal argument, their voices sharp in the quiet house. Taylor stood rigidly, her arms crossed, her eyes fixed on the floor. When an officer asked if she felt safe, she paused, a long, heavy pause before nodding silently. She refused to file a report or provide a written statement, her voice barely above a whisper. Following protocol, the officers closed the case without further action, filing it as a non-criminal incident. Reviewing the body cam footage later, detectives saw what they'd missed. Taylor's guarded posture, her hesitation, the fear in her silence. It was a red flag that should have sounded alarms. Taylor's behavior in the weeks before her disappearance painted a clearer picture. She'd missed a civil court appointment, a stark contrast to her reputation as a punctual and dependable coworker. Her Instagram, once a weekly showcase of vibrant photos, coffee shop outings, dog walks, sunsets, went silent after early April. Friends recalled moments of candor she quickly downplayed. "He scares me sometimes," she told one friend, laughing it off as if embarrassed by her own admission. "I'm just being dramatic," she'd say, her smile forced. In a phone call, a week before the party, Taylor confided in a former roommate. "I'm thinking about leaving," she said, her voice heavy, "but I need more time to figure it out. I don't want to make things worse." Those words would echo through the investigation, a haunting reminder of her isolation. Initially classified as a voluntary adult disappearance, the case limited the resources available. No Amber Alert was issued, as Taylor was 29, and there was no immediate evidence of foul play. But detectives grew uneasy. Taylor had no history of running away, no legal troubles, and her bank accounts showed no activity. Her phone, last active on April 25th, was either powered off, destroyed, or in a signal dead zone. A neighbor's casual comment shifted the investigation's focus. While being interviewed, he mentioned seeing smoke rising from Taylor's backyard on the night she vanished around 1 a.m. They assumed it was a trash fire, common in suburban yards, and didn't think much of it at the time. But to detectives, it was a thread worth pulling. On May 20th, 2021, investigators returned to the Stallion Brook Lane house with a forensic team, armed with luminol, chemical reagents, UV imaging, and infrared photography. Their goal was to find what the initial welfare check had missed. In the master bathroom, they found grout lines scrubbed with high-potency bleach and ammonia-based cleaners. The tiles gleamed unnaturally, with no record of a professional cleaning service. Chemical tests revealed microscopic traces of human blood proteins in the tile seams, invisible to the naked eye. Lab analysis confirmed the DNA matched Taylor's. The amount was too small to indicate a violent struggle or major blood loss, but it suggested a deliberate, thorough cleanup. In the backyard, a scorched patch near the property line drew scrutiny. Soil samples revealed polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PA's chemical byproducts of burning organic material, and elevated levels of calcium phosphate often associated with incinerated bone or tissue. Synthetic fibers, likely from clothing or household fabrics, were also detected, ruling out a simple trash fire. The burn pattern suggested a brief, intense fire, not a controlled burn for yard waste. Along the hallway, connecting the bathroom to the backyard exit, forensic tests found faint hemoglobin signatures in the foam padding beneath a newer layer of carpet, as if someone had replaced the surface to hide evidence. The older carpet, buried beneath, held traces of Taylor's DNA, linking the bathroom to the backyard. A neighbor's security camera, 3 houses down, captured a brief flash of light in the backyard at 1:03 a.m. on April 26th, aligning with the reported fire. The footage showed no figures or movement, just a fleeting glow, but its timestamp was critical. Investigators also reviewed Taylor's phone and Google search history. Her final search, on April 24th at 9:17 p.m., was chilling. What to pack if you have to leave quickly? The query was typed but never submitted, as if she hesitated or was interrupted. The total absence of digital activity after April 25th, no emails, no password resets, no SIM card activity, deepened the mystery. A neighbor noted another anomaly. Taylor's dog, usually kept indoors, was seen roaming the backyard unattended in the days after the party, a break from her routine care. On December 10, 2021, a land management crew clearing brush in a remote drainage ditch in North Harris County, 25 miles from Taylor's home, made a gruesome discovery. Amid the overgrown weeds, they found charred human remains mixed with melted fabric, zippers, deformed grommets, and blackened shoelace eyelets. The site was isolated, hidden from the nearest road, with no surveillance coverage, a perfect place to conceal a crime. The crew's supervisor contacted law enforcement, and within hours, crime scene investigators descended on the ditch. Forensic anthropologists confirmed the remains were human, heavily damaged by intense heat. The bones were fragmented, brittle, and partially calcined, with no intact skeletal structures. After 12 days of meticulous analysis, dental records identified the remains as Taylor Pomaski's. 8 months after her disappearance, the case was reclassified as a homicide, shifting the investigation into high gear. The ditch showed signs of a rushed, uneven burn. Some bones were fully calcined, others barely touched, suggesting an open-air fire rather than a controlled incineration. Melted synthetic fibers and metal components, likely from athletic clothing, were scattered among the debris. A skull fracture was noted, but pathologists couldn't determine if it occurred before or after death. No ligature marks, bullet fragments, or clear signs of blunt force trauma were found, leaving the cause of death undetermined. The autopsy report offered a cautious conclusion. Homicidal violence cannot be excluded. Investigators worked backward to piece together the critical hours between Taylor's last sighting and the disposal of her remains. Witness accounts placed her alive at the party until around 11:45 p.m. on April 25th. Cell tower data showed Kevin Ware Jr.'s primary phone stationary at the Stallion Brook Lane house from 4 p.m. on April 25th until 6:13 a.m. on April 26th, when it began moving west, then north, stopping for 22 minutes near the ditch where Taylor's remains were later found, just 0.7 miles away. It was the only time his phone pinged in that remote area in months. A neighbor's security camera recorded the sound of a car door slamming and a vehicle leaving at 6:05 a.m., aligning with the phone's movement toward the disposal site. Back at the house, forensic evidence painted a grim picture. The bathroom's trace blood, combined with high concentrations of bleach applied 24 to 48 hours after Taylor's disappearance, suggested a cleanup of biological material. Plumbing samples from the bathroom sink and shower revealed degraded organic residue consistent with human tissue flushed through the drains. Sludge from the P-trap contained microscopic tissue fragments. too degraded for DNA testing, but indicative of organic waste disposal. The hallway's faint hemoglobin signature, embedded in the carpet padding, suggested a body was moved from the bathroom to the backyard. Soil tests from the scorched backyard patch revealed PAs and calcium phosphate, matching compounds found at the ditch, though a direct chemical link was impossible due to time and weather exposure. Witnesses from the party provided critical details. One recalled hearing Taylor and Kevin arguing behind a closed bedroom door, their voices escalating around 11 p.m. Another saw Kevin power washing the back patio at dawn on April 26, an unusual task that now seemed like an attempt to erase evidence. A third witness, re-interviewed in June 2021, recalled Taylor's distress, describing her pacing near the front door, clutching her phone as if debating whether to call someone. Jailhouse informants, while Kevin was in custody on unrelated drug and weapons charges, reported him making cryptic remarks about taking care of a problem and cleaning it up well. A second phone belonging to Kevin, recovered by police, had been factory reset. But forensic analysts retrieved a deleted text from its cache. "It's done just like we planned," sent around 4:30 a.m. on April 26th. The message lacked a recipient or exact timestamp, but its timing was damning. Metadata from Kevin's secondary device revealed encrypted messages exchanged with a known associate, a person with a documented criminal history. Between 3:15 a.m. and 5:04 a.m. on April 26th, the communication stopped abruptly, just before his phone moved toward the ditch. A forensic anthropologist analyzed the remains, noting uneven burn patterns consistent with a hastily built backyard fire, not a high-temperature incinerator. The theory emerged. Taylor was likely killed in the home, possibly in the bathroom, with her body moved through the hallway to the backyard for an initial burn attempt. When that failed, perhaps due to time constraints, odor, or visibility, the remains were transported to the remote ditch for a second rushed disposal. By mid-2022, the Harris County District Attorney's Office had a compelling, though circumstantial, case. The evidence included trace blood in the bathroom, matching Taylor's DNA, burn residues at the house, and ditch containing paws and calcium phosphate. Cell tower data placing Kevin at the disposal site. Inconsistent statements from the homeowner. Post-party cleanup efforts, including bleach and power washing. And the chilling text message. On July 26, 2022, a grand jury convened, reviewing the forensic findings, digital trail, witness accounts, and jailhouse testimony. After 2 days, they returned an indictment against Kevin Ware Jr. on 1 count of murder and 1 count of tampering with a human corpse. The case was strong, but not airtight. No murder weapon was recovered, no confession was recorded, and the cause of death remained unknown. Fearing a mistrial or prolonged appeals due to these gaps, prosecutors offered a plea deal. On April 28, 2023, Kevin pleaded guilty to both charges in Harris County Court, receiving a 30-year sentence with no parole eligibility until his 70s. Effectively a life sentence for the 42-year-old. No trial occurred, no witnesses testified. The courtroom was quiet, filled only with the rustle of paperwork and the weight of unspoken grief. Taylor's family attended, their faces etched with pain, but they chose not to deliver a victim impact statement. A private memorial was held at their request, a small gathering to honor Taylor away from the public's gaze. The Harris County Sheriff's Office closed the case, issuing a brief press release. Taylor Pomaski's voice is being heard even now. Taylor's case is a heart-wrenching reminder of how domestic violence can escalate in the shadows. In the weeks before her death, she left a trail of warning signs, whispered fears and late-night calls, social withdrawal, missed appointments, and a draft email screaming for help. The April 7th domestic call, her vague confessions to friends, her sudden digital silence, none triggered the intervention she needed. Across the U.S., the legal system often fails women in abusive relationships. Without visible injuries or formal complaints, cases are dismissed as non-criminal, leaving victims like Taylor vulnerable. Her story is one of countless examples, where subtle red flags were overlooked until it was too late. Behavioral analysts later classified Taylor as higher risk for domestic abuse, citing her isolation, vague mentions of fear, and missed obligations. Friends recalled her downplaying her concerns, a common trait among victims who normalize or minimize their fear to cope. "He scares me sometimes," she told one friend, laughing it off. I'm just being dramatic. But the signs were there, scattered across her life like puzzle pieces no one assembled in time. Taylor's timeline now serves as a cornerstone for domestic violence prevention in Harris County. Local organizations use her case in training seminars, resource guides, and community outreach, highlighting the signs of escalating danger, sudden isolation, digital silence, and undocumented fear. Name appears on flyers in school gyms and in quiet presentations, a call to action for vigilance and support. At her memorial, Taylor's mother shared a quiet truth with a reporter. She kept trying to escape. She just didn't get far enough. Taylor Pomaski's story is more than a case file, it's a mirror reflecting the gaps in our systems, the silences we must learn to hear, and the lives we can still save. On the Crime Decoder, we tell these stories to honor the victims, amplify their voices, and spark change. If this case moved you, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more true crime deep dives every night.